so we'll go by yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And they're automatically sad, you know.
Yeah, I know. Who's your carrier?
18J.
This is too.
Yeah.
There's 2 minutes difference.
Must be when I travel outside of the
Yeah.
international waters.
Must be it. You know, the Canadian time.
Yeah,
It's almost Canadian time, 2
Yeah.
minutes off.
2 minutes out. All right, I have 5 o'clock.
Good enough.
Call the meeting to order. Today, Monday, January 6th, 2020. Sounds funny.
Wow.
It does.
All right, roll call. Selectmen Howdy Goodwin, Mike Mansalilli, Mackenzie Jewett, Kevin Buck, myself, Jamie Thurlow, Town Manager Chris Saunders. Adoption of agenda. Is there any changes anyone would like to make the agenda? All right, approval of minutes. We have the minutes from Monday, December 16th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from Monday, December 16th, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from Monday, December 16th, 2019. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, next one is approval of warrants. We have warrant number 64 for $1,970.50. Warrant 65 for $11,996.06. 66 for $8,971.17. 67 for $280,860.20. 68 for $9,583.01. And 69 for $7,252.65.
Make a motion to approve warrants 64 through 69.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve warrant 64 through 69. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, regular business. First thing is to discuss possible award of the bid for the library building project from the current state through completion.
As a bidder on this, I'd like to recuse myself from this portion
Okay.
of the agenda. Thank you.
Has everybody gotten a chance to look at or maybe I should let you guys talk first before we.
All three are kind of related, so if I kind of meander,
Yeah,
I apologize ahead of time. But I will start out with, we received 2 bids for the project. One we felt was within our budget, assuming that we could get quality work out of it, which we're a little sensitive to. And as a result, we would like to recommend the board approve the bid of Main Highlands Contracting in the amount of $166,757 for the completion of the interior work at the library. We reached out to a number of the references. They provided 20 named projects they had done, and they gave us, I believe it's 6 references. We reached out to all of them. I don't know if it's the holidays or what, we only heard back. I only heard back from 2, and I don't think Pete heard back from the Coast Guard. But the 2 that I did get back from were Dorothea Dix Psychiatric in Bangor and the Bangor Mall. Both were highly enthusiastic about the work that Main Highlands Contracting had done for them, and both indicated that they expected to be using them on future projects as well. one of the big changes we made in this one, which we should have done in the first one, we'll take the hit on that, is that the project is bonded.
Is it a performance bond and a bid bond
So
also?
it's a performance bond only.
Yeah, you probably would want a bid bond also.
I gotta tell you, I'm kind of ignorant about this stuff, I'm not even sure I understand the difference. But if, you know, that's what the board would feel more comfortable with, I'm sure we can go back and negotiate it. But we do have a performance bond on this project. So I don't know what else to say, other than that the subcontractors are all local, and they were part of that package that we provided, indicating that there were local vendors, for lack of a better word, that had been participating, so they chose the ones that we had recommended in this. Like I said, the recommendations are good, their start date is quick, and we really like to move ahead on this. But I'm sure you may have questions, or I can start talking about a couple of the other items that are kind of related to this as well. But that's our request, is that you award this contract.
I just offer the following, and that is, when this bid came in, we were a little concerned. You're headquartered in Etna, which is a fair piece away. Well, the Coast Guard project they did, although we couldn't get a reference from the Coast Guard, it was actually a contractor for the Coast Guard, but it was roof and roof window work. And I'm sure I would have heard about it by now if that hadn't worked out. This was at the support center in Boston, which is right on Commercial Street. So I'm sure I would have heard about it if that hadn't worked out.
Yeah.
So I don't know, if the board wants to do, then sequentially, we can do that. But that is our recommendation, that you allow the town manager to enter into final contract negotiations and to approve that you sign a contract for no more than $166,757.
And that gets it finished. That's from now to end.
That's from, well, this.
Now-ish.
Yeah, it will take care of everything that the initial contract covered. Okay. So it doesn't include certain items it doesn't include landscaping, that wasn't
Sure.
part of the first contract, or paving the parking area, that was not part of the first contract. But everything that was in the New Yankee Builders contract is included in here.
I'm gonna be extra cautious this time.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Have the company that's listed here has only been in business for like 2 years. Are some of these references from,
I think it's okay, yes, go ahead.
are some of these references from when they worked for someone else, or, I wasn't sure, because there's quite a list of, references and jobs and stuff, and it only listed them as being in business for 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm sure it includes things that they did prior
Okay.
to their going into business. No,
Did you see that?
Yeah, where'd you
I
see
missed
that?
I looked it up.
Oh,
online.
okay.
Yep.
Because it says the owner project manager has 20+ years of experience, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean
No, mine,
necessarily
I'm wondering
one
if that
spot.
might mean they're incorporated or they're organized as this business for
Mhm.
2 years, but
yeah, they could have been like a sole proprietorship or something before that.
but
I just know this company was formed 2 years ago, January 8th, about exactly 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, and I guess I apologize, I looked at the 1999 date
Mhm.
when he started in the construction business.
Yep.
As my starting point. So
Yep.
I apologize for that.
No, I definitely would go for it. I think the bid bond we'd want that though to cover the money part of it, other than just the
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think more cautious.
Just out of curiosity, and I'm only asking this for my own information. Is a bid bond a major dollar item typically?
Six to 8% typically.
Be sure it's liquidated damages.
Yep.
Get a check.
It guarantees that he's gonna do the project for the stipulations that
Okay.
you outlined for him, for that amount of money.
Then may I ask a favor if I can modify my recommendation to you?
Yeah.
Because it's very likely to affect his quote, because we asked for a performance bond on a bid bond. It may come back that 6 to 8% that Mike mentioned higher.
Mhm.
So can we move that number, or, you know, that we're looking for? Because I wouldn't expect a contractor to eat that cost if he hadn't anticipated it in the bid.
Yeah.
And we did not ask for it in the bid.
You get it back though, don't you, at the end? Yeah, you get it upon completion. It's just.
That's
a-
why I go back
yeah,
to that.
no.
I have no.
No, I think it's just to reassure, it's just insurance for the town is all it is. So that when you put that up front and when the job's complete, then you get your check back. I
So the
think
way that-
basically.
The way it was done for the wharf projects, which is the
Mhm.
most recent example, is they had two choices. They could either just give us a bank check for that amount, or they could have a bond that was, backed by a financial institution, but there wasn't actually a check. So are you asking for the bank, you want the bank check? Is that correct, based on?
There's two types of bonds, and if you just want to make sure you get enough, I think is what I'm trying to.
Okay, so
Because
either a bank check,
Yeah.
or
Because
a
I
surety from
Right.
a financial institution for that amount.
So it could be
A
approved.
surety guarantees they're gonna hire someone to finish it, surety company, and they may allow the contractor to do it, that if he failed to do it, or they might revert back to you and say, will you approve these certain contractors to finish your project?
So could it be possible then to add that as maybe you leave the amount alone?
Mhm.
And then plus
Just make sure.
those, one of those two items?
Yeah, I think if he does a bank check, there's no extra cost to him for this, because he can just go to a bank and get a bank check, and he can do that himself. If he gets the surety bond from a bank, then the bank is gonna charge a service fee for that. And I don't know what percentage the
So we
bank's charged for that.
we could give him the option of one
I-
or the
yeah.
other.
Yeah, they would both be bid bonds.
As long as it covers, as long
Yeah,
as
as
it
long as-
covers the amount.
Yeah.
That's
So-
all we
So a
care
bonding
about is just a
agency-
percentage.
A bonding agency themselves is covering the project if he fails. A bank check, that's just you're just handing someone some money and saying,
Then we gotta go find someone again.
then you still gotta find somebody who'll finish it.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
six
yeah.
percent they're guaranteeing the full cost of the project, whereas a bank check can only be 6 or 8%.
Yeah.
Just,
Like I said, plead ignorance.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
Like I said, I'm just
I-
trying to be
yeah,
over
I-
cautious this time.
I want to make this work.
Yep.
More than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, as long as we had something withheld, that's what I want to make sure that we have something in our,
To cover
that
Yeah,
our
cover the-
bases,
cover
the money.
if,
Yeah.
for any reason
No,
that things
yes.
don't
What-
go as planned.
Why don't we make a motion for the bid amount plus cost of bid bonding?
Okay.
If that's,
Plus cost of bid bond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Yeah.
We don't know what that's gonna be.
You're the ones that have to approve it, so
Okay.
if that's what makes you feel.
that sounds good to you.
That's
And if
what
it's
we
a
should do.
minimal expense, he comes back and says that, okay, now it's gonna be $5,000 in addition to, because of this bid, that's too high.
yeah,
But if
okay.
it's
I get what you mean,
a
just
couple
to,
$100.
just to be the bid bond, not the amount of money for the
Correct.
bond. Okay. Yeah, no, I understand. Yep.
So if you're okay with that, we certainly are okay with that.
So we would just change it to, in the amount, and leave, just write the same exact amount, I would say,
Yeah, I would say in the
Plus
amount
cost
of,
the bid bond.
plus the cost of the bid.
plus the cost of a bid bond.
Is that a bid bond and performance bond or just bid bond
Well, the contract already has a performance bond
built into it?
built into it.
Good.
Yeah, so it would be,
Okay.
You all set then? I'll make a motion if not.
yeah, it's Maine Highlands Contracting LLC, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see the LLC.
Oh, it's no LLC.
Okay, I guess I'll do it. I make a motion to award the library building project general contractor bid to Maine Highlands Contracting in the amount of $166,757 plus the cost of a bid bond to complete the library building project.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to award the library building project general contract bid to Maine Highlands Contracting in the amount of $166,757 plus cost to get a bid bond to complete the library building project. Good. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Next item up on regular business is the library building project.
We're back.
Discussion and possible appointment of clerk of the works.
Do you want to start? As you know, we've used Mel Atherton for a number of roles in this project so far. In each of those roles, he's performed really, really well for us. And he is willing to serve as clerk of the works when the project begins again. And we would like to have him appointed to that position. I don't know what else to say.
well, I feel he's been well above and beyond.
Yeah.
Believe
So,
me,
He saved
so
their
he
bacon.
he deserves it.
yeah, he's been very good. He's been honest with us. He's been willing to do more than he had to do at almost every point in this project. He could have said that I didn't sign up for this,
Yeah.
and thanks for the fish, But he did, he hung in there and, really made a big difference to this project. And I think everyone on the library board, I tell you, has absolute confidence in him. So we like to reappoint.
Is the work that you contract with Mel, is it complete?
We had the initial contract, which was terminated. He hadn't used all the money that was in that.
No, I understand.
Then we did the change orders and he used, I'm gonna say, just roughly a third. He did do, one of the pieces and that was completed and they've been paid. So right now it's
Okay,
back to zero.
my only concern is any kind of overlap or
No,
Yeah,
that's.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you're asking is that the building is now buttoned up.
Yeah, no, it
And-
looks,
Okay.
And we were in there this morning and things look great. It's all tight.
I guess it just, if there's any problems going forward, we hear about them sooner than later. Which is the case with everybody, right? I mean.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know it's a problem until it's.
Till it's,
big
yeah, no,
problem.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
keep a close eye, Mel.
Yeah.
Keep a close eye.
We learned hard.
All right,
I make a motion to waive the competitive bid process and appoint Mel Atherton as clerk of the works for the library building project through completion and to authorize the town manager to sign the job description and responsibilities as presented.
Second,
Been moved and seconded to waive the competitive bid process and to appoint Mel Atherton as clerk of the works for the library building project through completion, and to authorize the town manager to sign the job description and responsibilities as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Right. Just sign this. All right, next thing is the library building project.
Surprise.
Yeah. Consideration, I know we've talked about this before, but consideration of appropriating some funds from the library operating fund into the library capital reserve.
Basically, several years ago, it was recognized that about, and I'm being a little rough with the numbers, about 90% of the funding for the library's budget every year comes from taxpayers, from the monies of people. And then the library commits to raising a certain amount every year. They also commit that if they spend over the amount authorized, through the warrant article, that the board, if you will, is on the hook for that deficit. If the town approved, 60 and we said we'd raise 10 and expenses, we raised the 10, but expenses came in at 80. That $10,000 is the board's responsibility, not the taxpayers. So the ordinance was changed a number of years ago to say if you have years of surplus, they can accrue, and it can sit there. It's an insurance policy for years where you didn't raise as much money as you planned, or you had some extraordinary expense item that wasn't anticipated, then it's there to draw on. We're coming to you to ask for authorization to use that library operating fund monies to help pay for the construction. Now, our goal is not to use it. That doesn't sound odd, but we don't have enough remaining in the capital reserve fund to pay for the contract you just approved. Okay, we're short. So we know we're gonna have to engage in another round of fundraising. We already know that there are several individuals who have raised their hands and said, if you need some more money, you can come to me, but we don't know how much that is. We don't know a lot of things. Our goal is to use it, but if we do, we couldn't do it, we couldn't ask you to do it, to sign a contract for monies we don't have. And that's really what this is there for, that if we need to draw on those library operating fund surpluses, which we have accrued over the years, then we can sign it, and that will cover the contract we just talked about, the $166,000, and also some outstanding commitments that we've made, like, if you remember, we approved having the Maine State Prison Industry System do the bookcases, so that's covered. So the remaining in the capital reserve plus the operating fund monies, okay, will cover every outstanding financial commitment we have, even if we don't raise a nickel. Now, we need to raise more than a nickel. We are assuming that our fundraising responsibilities will be anywhere between, I'm guessing, $30,000 to $50,000 that we will have to raise to complete the project, which includes some of the things I talked about earlier that isn't part of that contract. It'll be landscaping, it'll be paving, it'll be that kind of thing that we want to do to finish the project. We think we can raise it. We think we can raise it rather quickly. But I would just assume if we have a contractor that's ready to start working, and we've got all these subs that are lined up that are committed to the project, let's move ahead. We will raise the money, and monies that we raise in excess, we'll go right back into the library operating fund. I mean, that's only fair. That's where you took it out, and that's where it'll go back in. So if we raise enough to cover all the outstanding expenses, we won't touch it. I've looked at cash flow. We shouldn't need to touch that if we can get a start by February 1st. we would not need to touch that until mid-April.
Yeah.
Okay, which gives us February, March, gives us the 10 weeks to raise the additional funds, and that's what we intend to do.
So if roughly right now it has a balance of $45,000.
Correct, yes.
What do you think roughly you would want to, do you want to wipe it clean is what you're saying, or do you want to leave some?
I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, but.
I mean, that's what I want to do, and, you know, this is one of those, if things happen in the way we think they're gonna happen, and like I said, there've been a number of people who've already stepped up and said, you know, you had some problems,
Mhm.
we will help, let us know what you need. You know, we gotta get that process going. My goal, our goal, the board's goal would be that we can raise enough money that we don't have to touch any of it.
But for now,
But if we came to zero, if everybody says, you know, been there, done that, not gonna do it again, we can finish this building. We can pay all outstanding commitments that we have made. That's, I mean, that's.
Do you have a number in mind to authorize?
I would just like you to authorize to allow us to use that fund. I mean, if you wanna make sure there's money in it, you could authorize us at like 40,000 out of 45.
that's what.
You
I-
comfortable with that
Touch
motion, Chris?
and there
Yeah, okay.
remains a balance that could make up for any shortfall.
Yeah.
That we might have, that's fine.
I think that's a good idea. If you left something in there for, 5,000, something like that,
contingency,
just something to have in there.
Like I say, the goal is we won't have to
Yeah.
touch it. We've
So,
had a lot of goals in this project.
Yeah.
so the way that your motion is, the draft motion is written in there, it's just a transfer that I would do. I'd ask that, that we would do tomorrow.
Mhm.
And so we would just transfer, if you said, for example, $40,000, we would transfer tomorrow $40,000 from the library operating fund to the capital reserve. Now, the way that these reserves are structured, you have the, well, you can see with the library capital reserve
Mhm.
in your packet, at the same town meeting, Article 46 has what the library capital reserve expenses are allowed to be used on, which is to use these funds for unbudgeted library repairs costing $5,000 or more, and to allow town meeting to use these funds for library expansions and unbudgeted. So that I'm not sure you're allowed to transfer back out of the library capital reserve back into the library operating fund, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Do you follow that?
yeah.
Yeah,
So if we give that all to them, you're not sure if they don't use it all, they can't stick it back in.
I don't see that that's allowed per that reserves.
And it could be set up such that, we run through the capital reserve first.
Mhm.
And then if we need it, we come and say, we need 10,000 transferred in.
And so if you want to do it that way, then I would suggest waiting until you're at that point.
Right.
I just don't want
That's what I
you-
was concerned, yeah.
But we
Yeah,
don't want to,
Well, they want to be in a jam if they need.
Yeah,
money right
exactly.
away.
Hear
That's
that.
it. We
I
got
don't-
2 weeks for our next meeting.
yeah. If you have to
We can
wait
give it
2
to them, they
weeks.
can always tuck it back if they have to.
well, that's what I'm saying, you
We're
can't
not sure we
send it.
can
Yeah, that-
send it back.
Into that reserve.
Yes.
Can you just, how about something that says when needed, authorize to transfer it when,
Up to certain,
yeah,
a certain amount
I
as
mean,
needed.
Mhm.
Then if it comes in increments of $5,000, then that's what happens. Something like that.
rather than, like you say, do the transfer tomorrow, do it when, if and when it becomes necessary.
But is that gonna foul them up if they have to wait for us to have, if it's 2 weeks
Well, I
before we have
think,
a meeting?
if you've already made the motion, then you have authorized the expenses, and so we wouldn't have to come back.
You wouldn't have to
Yeah.
wait for
Yeah,
us to call
that's
you.
one
Okay,
thing.
good.
I mean, like any other expense, it has to go on a warrant. for town
Sure.
meeting, or for a select board meeting. But I would be more comfortable if you had at least up to a certain amount of money.
Oh, yeah. No, if we said if you said up to $40,000, as needed. Or,
Yeah,
or if needed, or,
I'd say like if or when required.
yeah, if or when required, yeah,
Something
whatever,
like that.
however.
yeah, okay.
Chris is
Well,
happy.
Chris doesn't
Chris
look
is
like he's-
figuring it out.
I-
That looks painful over in that end.
It's
It seems easy to us.
Right, right, we'll just,
really
yeah,
easy,
it'll be fine, Chris, it's
okay.
okay.
All right, we can make that work.
Okay, let me try it, see if everyone's happy. I
I'm
make,
read it, so hang it.
okay, go slowly.
Yeah, go slow.
Okay, I make a motion to authorize the treasurer to transfer up to $40,000 from the library operating fund to the library capital reserve fund, if or when required, to pay the library building project expenses. Everyone happy with that?
Second,
That's good. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to authorize the treasurer to transfer up to $40,000 from the library operating fund to the library capital reserve, if or when required, to pay for library building project expenses. Good. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Once again,
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
thanks.
Good luck, guys.
oh, yeah.
All right. Next thing on regular business, letter of commitment for the Gulf of Maine Research Institute's EPA environmental education proposal. Here on behalf of that?
I am. And
Took the pressure right off me.
I am Lawson Wilson and Kevin doesn't have to talk at all. Welcome to Lawson. So I'm Lawson. I'm the program manager for Time to Thrive, also for Tremont. And we are partnering with Gulf of Maine Research Institute, which is based in Southern Maine, on a pretty comprehensive grant that, if funded, would pool or would combine all 4 towns in the island. And the Gulf of Maine Research Institute is partnering with a engineering firm called TFIC and Sewell, S-E-W-A-L-L, Sewell, to do a GIS mapping study for preparing for sea level rise, trying to forecast various scenarios for how sea level rise would affect MDI Island. And so we reached out to the town, I think last week or the week before. The grant was due this afternoon, which is why we asked for a letter of commitment before this meeting. And thank you, Chris, for helping move that through. The letter of commitment essentially sort of voices the town's support for this project. The actual project would take place between August of this year and maybe September of 2021, but still a ways in the future. And it would involve some task force meetings, a member from the town, from each of the 4 towns, from a Time to Thrive, probably the National Park, and Maine Coast Heritage Trust, COA, the high school, get in a room 4 times throughout the year to talk about sea level rise and how to prepare for what in the climate change business is called adaptation. Solar panels count as mitigation. This is an adaptation strategy. And then there's also community engagement component. So we host a series of public meetings, probably one maybe in this room or maybe at the new library, to talk about a product which is a online web-based mapping software. It'll look sort of like Google Maps and be able to see the ways in which what the island might look like in 2050, given a certain prediction about sea level rise. I think that's my talk.
Okay,
Questions,
all right,
comments,
thank you.
concerns? Yeah.
I believe there may be some funding that comes to the town
There is
along
some
with
funding that
this.
comes to the town, so it's a $100,000 grant. The town receives a couple $1,000s of that to offset some staffing time for, I'm not sure exactly who the right representative of the town is to attend these stakeholder task force meetings. And then also maybe some space rental or catering for one of these public events. Time to Thrive will also be doing lots of the community out, we'll be doing the publicity aspects of the events.
Great.
I'm not in favor of this.
I'm not either. I think we just,
I think that, we've been incorporated for a couple hundred years now. I think we've got a good hold on our flood strategies and that sort of thing. And I don't think we need to start preparing for flood maps and that sort of thing. And that's what I'm afraid this is going to lead to. It's going to make people's insurance rates go up. It's going to make it harder for people it could make it harder for people that are working on the waterfront. And I don't want to put my support beside anything that could affect the local economy. And I'm not saying that this is going to in
Right.
itself,
Yeah.
but judging from flood maps and sort of things in other towns, it does affect a lot of things.
Yeah.
As a planning board member in Southwest Harbor for 8 years, I saw what it did over there. It was difficult on some projects. I think, I just don't think we're ready for it.
I think it's a fantastic idea and I'm behind it. I think educating people on what's coming is a great plan. I understand your concerns, Mike, but I believe you're talking more FEMA maps.
No, I've read up on this. I just feel that it leads to things. Once you have data like this, it can be used for different things. The planning board could take it and say, we're going to zone this zone into a coastal flood zone,
Sure.
for example. And I don't really know, I don't think Tremont's ready for that. I don't think the citizens are ready for it. And I'm just not backing it right now. I have a lot of clients that have houses on the waterfront. I know a lot of businesses that are friends of mine that have business on the waterfront. And I'm sure there's some impact from water and sea level rise, but they've always been able to deal with it. And I know some other towns may support this, but I don't think I do it this time.
I don't think that's their intentions though, right? I mean, that's not the goal
That's
here.
where it will start though.
It's about education.
Yeah.
It's an educational program. I think that, I'm certainly not gonna try to convince you that like, it's not scary. I think that it is. And I think for some people it could be quite scary. And so I think that your points, Mike, are quite well stated, well founded. I personally, and as the program manager for Time to Thrive, our mission is about education, and it's about informing people with science-based, where it's not about propaganda, but it is really looking at the evidence and trying to figure out exactly what could and might sea level rise look like here on the island.
I think it's kind of pertinent the funding's coming from the federal government
That's
also
right. Yep.
that are supporting this.
Yeah.
I just don't, I know might not be anything right now. I just don't want to further restrict our harbor into what is possible for people to do here that have made a living here for generations and generations. And I just, I'm sure it has the best of intentions, but I don't think they're the intentions of Tremont as a community. And I can't support this. Absolutely can't. I think it's it's great that you are doing it, but I've seen what other towns, they have flood maps now and they're very, very restricted. And it's hard enough for people in, say, Southwest Harbor to build and in other towns because of things like similar to this. Ordinances are changed, zones are changed. It's not necessarily this, but it's what comes after this. Someone sees this and like, well, we've got to change this, this, and this, and this. And I just don't think, I don't think I want to support that right now.
Well, I'm going to make the motion. We can vote. I make a motion to confirm the letter of commitment signed by the Select Board Chair, Jamie Thurlow, for the Gulf of Maine Research Institute's EPA Environmental Education Proposal.
Second.
Then motion's been moved and seconded to confirm the letter of commitment signed by Select Board Chair Jamie Thurlow, myself, for Gulf of Maine Research Institute's EPA Environmental Education Proposal. Do I vote on this as well if I've already signed it or, okay, yeah, well, I just.
I think maybe you already have.
No, I just want to be sure that you're like, all right. Yeah, no, well, I should say any comments, and then I'd like to comment myself first. I think you make some really good points, Mike, and I we definitely don't want to see any negative impacts come out of, anything, that's for sure. I think at this point, it looks like it's just education, but I do agree that we have to be very cautious, when we move forward with anything, that what the impacts could be that come out of it.
You're gonna
You know, I agree.
map the town though, right, with this.
Yeah, as part of.
That's where I think the area that's gonna be, to me, is the worst part. I mean, that we're gonna be getting offered some money for this, of course, but the money doesn't offset the damage the potential impact long-term that this could have on landowners and businesses along the water. And that's kind of how I have to think about it. It's hard enough for a guy that's still got a family dock in town to operate, that's lucky to have one.
Yeah.
And he's lucky if he can put it back,
Yeah, I think that.
if he needs to rebuild it.
This isn't saying,
It's not, but there are towns in this area that have flood maps. And they are restricted in what they can do when they have a flood map. And that's proven.
We have flood maps now. It's already there.
But
I own a waterfront property. I've had to deal with that. But I understand your concerns too, Mike. I don't think this is going to contribute to it. I mean, I think that's where we differ.
Chris, you had a question? Regardless of how the board votes tonight, will you be mapping Tremont?
It's a good question. I think so. I'm not sure, because I don't think that anything that we're doing, that TFIC and Sewell is doing, is has sort of privacy concerns. We're not, sort of invading anybody's privacy by doing GIS-based mapping. And I think the question becomes, how does the town use the tool that's produced from this and how do they respond? How does the town respond given this new information? And it's just one, it'll be a complicated series of data points. It'll be a tool that doesn't dictate, future zoning decisions. That's left.
I think that the Gulf of Maine research site already has sea level projection data on it, I believe. I think this is just going to be a lot more accurate.
Right, it'll be focused.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we're looking for permission. We're looking for partnership.
So if it's gonna be mapped anyway, is the bottom line.
That is my understanding.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
and if it's gonna be mapped anyways, we might as well have community members be part of it. Have something to say about the process or the research or the meetings.
No, I think that, like I just said before, I think I can see where Mike has some points and how to do too, that I think we just have to be very cautious when you move forward with this and make sure that that we really pay attention when anything comes up on the topic.
I respect everyone's decision on this. I know everyone's a little mixed, but I don't see myself putting my sword behind it.
It's a stat or something.
I think we've been dealing with our flood problems for 200 or 300 years now, since Tremont was settled, and we've done a fine job of it, and as part of living on the coast of Maine.
But the world is changing too. I mean, the climate is changing. We've been good at this for 200 years, like you said. I agree with you, but the next 200 years, it's a whole different ballgame. So
Well, I think if they're gonna do the mapping anyway, then all we're doing is just some training to go along with that. I think that's more or less what it is. All right, okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, town managers report. Thank you.
And Lawson, your last name is Wilson, right?
Wilson, Wulsin.
I'm glad I asked.
Not the first. If you okay, you can spell that.
Wulsin?
Thank you.
All right, major emphasis of the last 2 weeks. I've worked with Greg Johnson to get that new work bid package out. It was posted on the town's website on Friday, January 3rd. Bids will be due back on Tuesday, January 21st, and you will have an agenda item that night to award the bids. So we're gonna open them at 1. Greg's gonna hustle back to his office, do a write-up and analysis, and be back here at 5 o'clock. So we're moving to get this out. But in case things don't work out the way we're hoping, we did get an extension on our SHIP funding to November 30th, 2021. So we have an extra season. If
Oh, that's good.
we don't want, we would like to get it done this year, but if not, it's not.
So
Funding
there-
is
there's
gone.
not going to be an opportunity for, is it DOT, which I can't remember.
DOT already reviewed the specs and.
But they're not going to be able to review the bids themselves. That was part of the issue.
They might, in that 4 hours, they might,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
That would be
Well, the
great.
company
They-
sound good.
He'll-
Show
he'll-
as hard as we possibly
I'm
can.
not promising that, but I think he'll
That
try.
would
Before
be
I
nice.
just get over it.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
But yeah, I agree, that is, we hope. Budget, so anyway, I've been working on budget preparation. We opened library bids. Some minor projects, I notified the nonprofits of funding decisions from your December 16th meeting. I'm working to get that recycling sign made and posted out here to notify folks about the changes. I've had emails at your request with officials at Acadia National Parks regarding the parking at the lighthouse. They did answer the question. There are no immediate plans to expand that parking lot down there, but they do have it on their long-term list. Know it's an issue and plan to have maybe in the next year or two, public hearings and discussions about what to do there. And so you would definitely be involved at that point, but nothing in the next, I would say by next summer. I've finalized that right of first refusal document for Pacific Hall. I've been working to get the Head of Harbor Cemetery surveyed. I'm hoping that'll be done by the end of January. We had our last bridge progress update meeting until May. We probably have noticed that there have been no workers there and there won't be workers there until May. I did my monthly vending machine audit. The fire department sold a 1989 truck that you authorized for surplus property. And the sale price was $5,500 for that, which has already been deposited into the fire equipment reserve.
Nice.
I had my check-ins with Mackenzie and Howdy. I have begun doing personnel performance evaluations. And I've been working with John Larson, the code enforcement officer, on some ordinance amendments for the 2020 town meeting. Those include floodplain, 911, land use ordinance, and road ordinance provisions. Most of these are pretty minor formatting changes, but you'll see them all in due time once their planning board has given them the stamp of approval. Office staff has been focused on finishing making the audit entries, ending the calendar year and start of the 2020 calendar year budget process, payroll, taxes, that kind of thing. Processing lien discharges and foreclosures. And then the office has been surprisingly busy, lots of hunting and fishing licenses, vehicle registrations, tax payments. And as you notice, Katie is not here. She's out on vacation this week. Public works projects, they replaced that Kellytown Road culvert. And they paved it over the top of it. They changed out cutting edges. Chris Cipollone rehabbed the float trailer, so we won't have to buy a new one, which is a nice savings. Lots of plowing and sanding and truck maintenance. They repaired some washouts on the Cape Road and on Rice Road. The crew did some maintenance on the ice skating rink, and I heard folks ice skating out there last week. So that's a good sign. And it's cold enough that there should be ice. And fixing some mailboxes that were knocked down during plowing. Our harbor master has been very busy. He's overseeing the public works crew. He also repaired the electric hoist. He's been doing plowing, sanding, and truck maintenance. He helped Greg Johnston finalize the wharf bid package. He hauled out the no-wake buoys, hauled out the Bath Island float, and the boat got its annual maintenance. And some priorities over the next couple of weeks, continuing to do budget work, continuing those performance evaluations. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be out at a Hancock County Planning Commission meeting. I have a meeting scheduled for later this week about appointing a new trustee for the Hinton Trust. I'll be meeting with some folks from the AOS to see if they can help us with our security cameras. This is part of that shared service, that service sharing effort with the schools, so we'll see how that goes. I've got a meeting with Steve Stanley regarding heat pumps here at the town office to see if that's a viable option for us. And then we'll be opening work bids on January 21st.
Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, suggestions for the next meeting? Anybody have any suggestions? Okay, next meeting date?
I'll make a motion to confirm the next meeting date for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 at 5 PM at the town office.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to confirm the date of the next meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 at 5 PM at the town office. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Second.
Second, okay, all those in favor? Good. Sounds. I almost hit you.